Hi guys, I'm Madeleine Harvey, and thank you so much for hanging out with me today. We just ran a poll just a few days ago asking you what you wanted to learn, and an overwhelming amount of my fellow YouTube subscribers said that they would like to learn how to pick the perfect song for their voice. So we're going to get into this today. There are 5 key components that we have to keep in mind and use as a tool to help us choose the perfect song for our voice. So what you're about to see is a clip that was taken from a live voice lesson that was shot earlier today. Now, the lesson is about an hour in length. So if you want to watch the entire voice lesson, I invite you to click that join button below and become a member of this channel. As a member, you'll have exclusive access to all of our lives that we do every Monday and Thursday at 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. So again, just click that join button below. It's only $4.99 a month, and your membership helps to support our channel. That way we can continue to develop this awesome content for you. So let's talk really quickly. What are the 5 things that we need to be considerate of when we're choosing songs that would help us to make it seem that these songs are tailor-made for our voice? Well, the 5 components are the key that the song is in, and just how important that really is. Your current level of ability. The tonal center or the placement of the color of the tone. The style or the genre that the song is in. And then whether or not you can actually own it. So we'll talk about what each one of these 5 components actually means. We'll dive in and we'll be as clear and as concise as we possibly can. If you have any questions, please feel free to comment below in the comment section and we'll do our best to answer your questions. This is a very deep topic. If you also want to visit with me on Skillshare, we've just launched a totally new module called Maximize Your Breath. There are 2 hours of voice lessons that have been added to our Skillshare roster. So all in all, about 8 hours of voice lessons there. So if you want to continue your learning and your development of your voice, visit with me on Skillshare and check those lessons out. Are you ready to get started? Here we go. So we're just gonna jump right in, and just like I said a second ago, this particular topic is really giant, and it's also really heavy. We have 5 components that we can negotiate with, but there's some that we cannot. So if you've ever noticed that there are some songs that you can sing very easily, and then some songs that for some reason get really difficult, and you'd like to be able to discern or at least diagnose why that is, we're going to break that down today. So our 5 things are, I'm just going to go ahead and hit you with them right at the top. We've got the key that the song is in. We've got what I call the tonal center. Another way you can look at that is placement. Your current level of ability. The style the song is in. And if you can actually own it. What's your specific comfort and confidence level like on that song? Does it seem like you are meaning what you're saying, or does it seem like your voice is somehow kind of floating over that melody line and is having difficulty engaging it? So to really get to the bottom, to the core of what this is all about, we've got to think like a producer, or we've got to think almost like a songwriter. So if I were a producer, and let's say a singer came to me with a particular song, maybe a popular thing to do is they go to a music publisher and they go through a little catalog and find original songs that they want to put maybe on an album, but they didn't write the song, so it's not necessarily written for their voice. They would take it to a producer, and one of the first things the producer would do is work by determining the right key that the voice is in. So another thing that dictates this is your voice type. So we've got some things that govern a voice type. Of course, You can negotiate a little bit. Like, I prefer to sing in the lower notes. My voice rests in the mid to lower notes. So that would effectively make me an alto. But as I sing higher, I can negotiate and maneuver with, let's say, my placement to some degree to sing some higher notes. But where it falls short for me is I don't necessarily feel that I'm actually engaging my authentic voice. Is this making sense so far? So again, the first thing we're going to look at is, what key is the song in? Now, a lot of singers tend to be very proud. Like, they want to sing in the original key that the artist put it in. Maybe because there's some sort of clout or bonus that they get for singing the original key. You don't necessarily have to. Now, again, we have to think kind of like a producer, and here's where we can't negotiate. The element that makes picking songs for your voice so difficult is your skull is your skull. That is a non-negotiable. The caverns, the acoustic caverns that make up the throat, the mouth, that nasal port, the nasal pharynx, and the inner workings of the nasal passages are non-negotiable. They're bones, right? So we are beholden to them acoustically. So if we're looking at key, which is what we're looking at right now, and let's say that as I'm singing the song, certain pitches are really hard to find in my skull. Maybe they're transitional pitches, which tends to be the case for some singers. The whole song may rest on that transition, which makes it really feel uneven in terms of where the key is. So first thing I want to do is see if I can maybe develop those acoustic spaces. A really great way to determine is take the words out. Just take the words out. We may be stumbling over style. It may not be a key issue. And just see if you can take a neutral stance for your song and sing your song a cappella, nice and slow, with a nice, like, sound. And if you notice that as you're going, your acoustics are not, they're not moving around. You're not doing a lot of different vowel stretching and demand. Your skull is nice and neutral. Your muscles are nice and neutral. That will help you see, can the air flow around my skull that's consistent within the key of that particular song? Now, if it can, that's a good key for you. That's a really good key for you. That's what's called the tessitura. Another way to look at that is, it's like fancy way of saying the sweet spot. And this is where knowing your voice type really, really matters. Although we want to extend our range and sing in a lot of different spaces, our voice will come to rest on specific notes. And those specific notes could be about an octave and a half, what have you. But once you get past a certain space in your voice, you'll start to notice that you have to kind of maneuver it around a little bit. And when you have to maneuver around a little bit, it doesn't quite feel as natural. Now, there is some area of development because, like I said, you might be fine in terms of key, but you might just need to develop your voice a little bit more. So here's a really great way to find out your voice type. Put a little graphic at the bottom here, and you'll see that bass C2 to F4. That's the considerable range. Now, again, you, I'm sure, can sing more or less than that. It's fine. That's fine. But this is the ideal space of tessitura, where you want to start your investigations. So bass, we see the octaves, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 at the bottom there. So bass, you're going to be from C2 to F4. Baritone, E2 to A4. That's where your voice is going to rest. So you'll want to pay special attention to notes that tend to sit in those spots. Tenor, G2 to C5. That's very impressive. Alto, C3 to G5. Now, I'm an alto, and that's completely true for me. Although not C3, maybe C sharp 3. That's where my voice really rests. But all the way to about G5. That is right on the money in terms of where I feel the most comfortable with my voice. Mezzo soprano, E3 to A5. There's lots of great music in that mezzo soprano range. And then soprano, G3 to E6. Now I'll leave this up a little bit. That way you guys can take a look at it and go, well, what does this mean? Well, it means that if you've got a song and it's just right outside of that tessitura, you can just change the key. There's lots of really great websites that do instrumental music that offer that, where you can modulate the key, whether it's an app or a website. One of my favorite websites is called Karaoke-Version, and you just change the key up or down in half-step intervals. So don't feel like you have to sing in the original key that the artist did. Feel free that you can take a little bit of creative license and design where your voice feels the most comfortable, okay? So now the idea with the key, just as a reminder, is that your skull is an acoustic chamber. It's a collection of acoustic chambers. So certain notes are gonna rest in your skull, and certain notes you need to kind of develop a little bit more and just really support a little bit more. You have to work a little bit more at them. So that's the first one, that's key. Don't underestimate that. You can make your life so much easier by just changing the key if you need to, okay? So the second thing is current level of ability. Now that's the one that no one really wants to hear, but it's okay. I'd much rather sing a simpler song and work the components of, let's say, song workshop, like creating my own sense of style, maybe developing my own kind of tone. And that way I'm not scared or afraid of the components of, let's say, the key, how high the song is going, or if it sits right on that break. I'm not distracted by any of those pieces. So I get to work a little bit more creatively. And I've had lots of songs, especially songs I've written, where I've needed to shelf it for a little bit and work on simpler components of my voice. So again, don't feel discouraged if your current level of ability is not necessarily allowing for a lot of freedom in being able to choose your song choices. I personally really do think that sometimes the best thing a voice can be is limited. Because again, we're not distracted by trying to be everything to everybody and sing everybody's songs, that we get to just focus on maybe what we like, or focus on maybe storytelling or more musicianship. So again, don't let that discourage you. You want to be able to be in a place where what you're singing is a spot where the voice is the most balanced. It's all about confidence. That's what we want. And I do think confidence is the ability to completely trust in your skills so that you can get that focus off of you and focus it more on your audience, or just having fun with your voice. Okay? So we've got key or voice type. We're looking for that tessitura. And then we've got current level of ability. Now, I just want to say this. How do you know when a song is outside of your current level of ability? I think we can kind of get an idea. It feels like we're straining, we're pushing, we're freaking out, we're scared even, or the voice just feels very unstable and wobbly. Some of those things, actually most of those things, could point to areas where we're sort of underdeveloped. And that's why we might need to shelf that song a little bit, work on some basics, and then just come back to it. I've done that also, where I've come back to a very challenging song and it was easy and it was great. I love when those moments happen. So our third component is